What we do here is go back.
So I finally finished it. Yeah, I know I bought the game over a year ago, and I'm just now getting around to playing it. Fuck off, sue me. But despite the original high praise reception that the game got, the actual reviews that I watched had one or two different things to say about it. Namely, its sorry excuse for player choice and its hipster music substituting for meaningful character development. And yeah, I know that it's a bit shit that I went into the game with that preconception in the back of my mind, so I had a bias even before I saw that first butterfly effect based intro screen. But what you have is what you have, and I played it. It was over in around 3 sittings, not because it was really long or really short, but mainly because I always got too bored or too tired of it to keep going and finish it in the one sitting that it apparently deserves. Look, I don't want to pointlessly rag on the game for the sake of the funny meme, so I will be trying to analyse this in a reasonably meaningful way. Like, way too meaningful, like Sword Gun Conundrum Mark II kind of meaningful. So, strap in or on, depending on how you want Daddy to please you, and prepare for yet another that Adly approved, coffee-fueled, 2 AM mid-panic attack clusterfuck of a video. Oh, and also... Give me your attention, baby! Life is Strange came from the French development studio currently working on the thematically dark and rather intriguing looking game called Vampire, which revolves around your character literally sucking the life out of everyone around them. Hey, at least they've got their core themes down, right? And they're known for, or rather not known for, the 2013 ironically titled game Remember Me, a rather promising looking game with a not so unique execution. And not unlike the title before it, Life is Strange left me feeling just about the same way, due mainly to the fact that a bunch of middle-aged Frenchmen had a very difficult time emulating the lives of American teenage girls that I could have actually given a shit about. Quite frankly though, they did a good job of creating lowest common denominator teen bitches, which is a term I'll be using a lot during this video. But oddly enough, despite popular belief, realism is not what makes the game. This game about portals and talking robots is great. This game about near omnipotent beings and ancient bug civilization is fantastic. This game about a sentient talking cat is one of the best I've ever had the fortune of playing, and none of them even resemble a reality close to our own. Don't get me wrong, good writing paired with excellent voice acting and a decent engine is really all I need to personally enjoy a game, but for me to enjoy it, it has to be fucking stellar when compared with whatever macho man shoot-em-ups we get on any given year for it to actually matter. This is Mary Sue. She's smart, brave, adaptive, and has lots to say about every situation. She generally spends the game directing the player around and telling them where to walk for the next cutscene, or where the nearest radio is so they can play some more Alt J. Every relationship she has within Life is Strange is already founded before the game starts, and unless you do a very specific series of very specific things in a very specific way, you'll have a hard time making or losing friends. Unless, of course, they inexplicably jump off a roof at some point. Victoria was the only character I could somewhat relate to, because despite her being a bitch, she was less of a bitch than the other bitches, so at least she had that one redeeming quality going for her. Plus, she developed as a character throughout the story, which I know shouldn't be surprising given the fact that it's a story and choice-based game, but compared to all the other synths of Arcadia Bay, her skin suit was just a tad more convincing.
No. Why don't you go fuck yourselfie?
Nathan, on the other hand, was this game's distraction. The red herring, per se. Designed rather badly at that to lead the player from the true villain, Mr. Mr. Jefferson, the neighbourhood's resident photography teacher turned serial killer. And in fairness to him, I'd want to kill someone too if I had to spend my life dealing with little shitheads like this every day. And speaking of shitheads, there sure was a lot of shit going on in Kate's. But regardless, the game still makes her out to be a big bitch. Where the last thing she texted me was something like, "Thanks Max, you're always there for me." And then the next time I saw her, she suddenly hated me, because I pressed X to select dialogue when I apparently should have clicked Y. And Y is exactly what I ask myself every time I look at Warren, desperately clamouring for the love of one that he knows is full well out of his league, even though she has a voice that feels like a cheese grater against my ears. But good God will he try, whether it be by texting Max 14 times in a row without response, by sending her cannibalism films via flash drive, or by mercilessly beating up Nathan multiple times, just because he thought it would be dangerous not to. And who could forget the MacGuffin of the game? Chloe. Often referred to as a koala by our favourite FNAF theory boy, she has some rather worrying self-destructive tendencies alongside a concerning amount of disregard for the lives of those around her. Everything revolves around her, and even when it doesn't, she makes it as such, making it nigh impossible to like her, let alone even be in the same virtual room around her. She often finds herself in hilarious and very strange situations where you, the player insert, has to MacGyver her way out of them. The game manipulates the story in a manner designed to lead the player to feel bad about and like her. But despite all this, she's still a bit of a con.
She may contain the urge to run away, but hold her down with soggy clothes and breeze blow.
After a random unexplained 5-year hiatus, one of Arcadia Bay's many putrid spawn returns back to the nest for photography school, and mid-lesson drug trip discovers that she can manipulate time. Or at least the new strain her dealer gave her was a little bit more than just weed. Anyway, she decides to blow off work and rush for her favourite place of all, that one bog that's slightly cleaner than the rest, for her morning dump. Whereupon she hears someone walking into the bathroom and hides, likely due to the embarrassment that she's shitting on the floor and not in the toilet where the game script really belongs. After mid-squat keeping watch as her friend gets shot above the crotch, she cries for a bit and then rewinds time. She goes to tell the principal about the shooting that she stopped by rewinding time, but not unlike Nathan's drug tab, he's paid off by Daddy Prescott. So despite the fact that the game is going for a realistic school simulator, a fucking report of a gun in the college does nothing but affect change in the strain of mild disbelief, and not a SWAT team being called. But whatever makes your helicopter fly, don't nod. Or do nod, so your lead scriptwriter's head is high enough that it can be lopped off by the blades. Let them eat hella, right? So anyways, in the car park, a gun is pulled again, and no one really gives a frothing red bollock about it, but...
The nigga just grabbed the nigga, snuffed the nigga!
And mid-snuffing, Max and Chloe skididdly-daddle right the fuck out of there because they, unlike the school's administration, dislike the idea of more people dying, or mysteriously disappearing! Anyways, after driving a blunt, Chloe and Papa Army Boy get in a quick heated fight where Chloe's a bitch once again, and then the weed really kicks in. Max gets more flashbacks, after which we're treated to soppy, whiny guitar music. Whilst I could make a joke about the fact that the game feels it necessary to constantly set this perpetually on the verge of bursting into tears sort of self-perception of one's character, with its dramatic episode end footage and use of only the softest, gentlest, most aggravatingly predictable music, quite frankly, I don't want to. Because I find it honestly insulting. Anyone that knows me and knows what I like about games will understand the fact that I think music is one of the most painfully underutilized tools in the game's development world. And despite a catchy theme song or two, many games never strive to go further when it comes to adding to the story. Whilst I respect Don't Nod for trying to create memorable moments through the use of music, they felt less like a gentle accent and more like an insensitive racial epithet trying to manipulate me into thinking something deep and meaningful was happening when really there was nothing of the sort at all. So Max decides to grab a bite to eat at the diner, and then Chloe sachets on in there, whereupon Max explains to her how her time travel powers work. By watching what happens, rewinding time back, telling Chloe what is going to happen before it happens, and then watching it happen. Despite the fact that Don't Nod took this scene straight out of Groundhog Day, it was quite innovative and it required a reasonable degree of player vigilance, where if you fucked it up and didn't get stuff right, Chloe wouldn't believe you and you'd have to restart. This, Don't Nod, is how you make a time travel game, where decisions and mistakes actually have impact, where keen vigilance and rewinding at the right time is required to advance through parts of the game. So evidently they never did it again in the entire game. After this, all the brownie points that the game earned with the last scene are well and truly spent, as we're made to collect fucking bottles. Instead of expanding on this idea, helping people or demonstrating what you can really do with a power like this, Chloe decides that the best course of action for us is to go to a large dump full of refuse and litter. No, not the art class, an actual dump full of refuse and litter, or we begin shooting things. And then Chloe gets shot for a second time this week. Or a third, fourth, or fifth if you keep rewinding just to continue staring at that look of bewilderment and shock on her face. And instead of telling her not to shoot or that you just watched her die several times before and ideally you won't have to watch it again because it's getting boring and you have places to be and people to see, you have to tell her where the best place to shoot is. And if you mess that one up, she dies again. The good news about Life is Strange is that death has no consequence whatsoever, unless of course your powers mysteriously disappeared the moment you really needed them. Oh. Don't Nod tells you that you have complete control, and that anytime something goes wrong, you can fix it by simply warping back in time and changing what or how you did things. From I first met Kate in the game, I knew that this sort of shit would be pulled, and whilst at the time it was rather aggravating to have your powers stripped when it mattered, it was smart to make the player feel vulnerable and unsafe, so they never did it again. You can look at this one or two ways. Way one is that they wanted to have impact when you look back at it, and way two is that they weren't smart enough to consider integrating it into the gameplay, where you can only rewind so many times before there's a penalty of some sort. Either way, in hindsight it was a powerful moment, and even though we never really get acquainted to Kate, suicide is an issue that affects everyone on some levels, so it's easy money when it comes to emotional beats. Max and Chloe then break into the principal's office, which involves a puzzle style, which I actually thought was quite innovative, and we never see it again. Fucking hell. After which, Chloe steals some money from a handicapped... Sorry, wait, what? How are we supposed to like this bitch of a woman? This morally corrupt excuse of a protagonist? She's just awful. And whilst on the subject of the main character, that's what Chloe is, by the way, Maxine's just a player vessel and has no real impact on what happens. All the major plot points, you can't time travel in. Everything that matters in Life is Strange is decided for you. And despite the illusion played by Don't Nod that would tell you otherwise, Chloe propels almost all major plot points, and without her being a fucking idiot, you wouldn't rewind time in the first place. Even when another character pushes herself off a building, it's still all about Chloe's feelings on the matter. Not about Kate's families or the players' feelings and what they think, but on Chloe, because in the eyes of whatever bubble-living Egypt they got to write the script, she is all that matters. So next they go for a swim, and there's a bit of a quasi-lesbian scene here, and frankly, I don't think it fitted at all. They never seem to click in that way, and I can't see them being together considering the way they act around each other. It seems like a sort of forced way to gain social justice points when they really should have focused on character development as a whole. They dander on down to the party bus, and then after returning home, Max presents the most glaring issue with Life is Strange. She can suddenly travel back in time to where a photo was taken. This hasn't been explained before, it hasn't been talked about before now, and there is no logical reason whatsoever for her to suddenly have been granted this ability. In fact, it's never explained at all. I'm sure that if I looked around the Don't Nod site and the fan forums enough, I'd eventually work out what she does and how she does it, but I'm more of a minimum effort kind of guy, and I'll go with what I got from the game, which is diddly fucking squat. I get that explaining something like this sort of removes the mystery from it, and when it comes to suspension of disbelief, I'm the Golden Gate Bridge. My favourite franchises are completely unlike our own reality, but most, if not all, of the things in them are explained in some feasible way, at least enough to alleviate the pressure of strange unexplained things within them. Life is Strange does not do this. I wouldn't have minded a quick science lab test session which not only strengthened Max and Warren's relationship, but also that utilised mechanics from the diner scene in the principal's office puzzle, but that's the game I wanted and not the one I got. Max then decides to rewrite the entire universe so it caters to what she wants to happen next on her sociopath, and in the next episode I'm sure everything will be just dandy. You dumb cunt. Okay, for real though, if I don't go on the fan site and read the episode summary before this bit of the script, I won't know what to say. Even at all. There is honestly no single moment within this episode that I can genuinely recall because it's stuck in my head. Quite frankly, they've all just blended into this one homogenous mass of mediocre gameplay and bad writing, where in fact they should have all differed in style and content. Life is Strange mixes some honestly really good core concept with this insane level of subplot where you look at the decision tree player data at the end of each episode and half the stuff is blanked out or auto set to no, because the option didn't even cross your path. If something's important enough that it has to be put at the end of the episode, it should be important enough that the player is directed to it. But if you're looking for a synopsis, go to the fucking website. You didn't come here for the story, you came here for my discontent regarding it. Otherwise, in episode 4, we have flashbacks, drug trips, and some plain weird scenes which not only don't fit, but are riddled with plot holes. So much of the story is just explained away by saying, she has special powers, or that happened, trust us, when quite simply, occurrences and happenings just don't make logical sense. Whilst it might look like Don't Nod have tried to target a specific variety of people with the game, they're targeting the lowest common denominator of gamers, with the most basic and digestible script. Might I in fact qualify this by stating that if you liked it, I get why you liked it. There is a lot about this game that is incredibly intelligent. Firstly, the majority of the voice actors do a very good job despite being written in very strange ways. Secondly, the game looks absolutely beautiful. There was rarely a moment where I thought it didn't capture the atmosphere perfectly, and anytime I did, well, that's perfectly subjective anyways. Thirdly, there were so many little details that are normally completely disregarded in modern video game design that were present in Life is Strange, whether it be from Maxine's shirt design changing as she develops the character, to the subtle or not so subtle ways that plot points were foreshadowed. So much of Life is Strange is incredibly smart and really good, and that's why it disappoints me so very much. In this episode, we get the big reveal. What, the Elder Maxim was the one cleansing Arcadia Bay of synths the whole time? Yeah, it wasn't that surprising. There was no other character that was already a part of the story and that not only had the means but the actual reasoning to abduct, photograph and murder people. So after euthanizing your bestie, you're abducted by my boy Jefferson, and then there's some more time traveling and you truly fuck up the world this time. You're then presented with a choice: kill everyone or kill one. For some, this was an incredibly difficult and truly philosophical concept that's been dealt with by many different people in many different ways. And I thought to myself how many times the people of Arcadia Bay helped Maxine, were kind to Maxine, and were just plain lovely as people and characters. And then I contrasted that to the apparent relationship that Maxine used to have with Chloe, and for me at least, it just didn't stack up. It was another example of the lazy writing that runs rampant and that sours Life is Strange to the point of disbelief, where you're told you have a relationship with a character instead of actually learning that you do and developing one through the gameplay, where they completely disregard a key part of writing that is oft only achievable through modern means, whether it be film, television, or of course video games. Show not tell is a basic concept that was incorporated in some ways, but not those that matter. That was Life is Strange. All in all, I wouldn't recommend you buy it. Most of what is good in Life is Strange is the experience through the design and not the gameplay. When Maxine controls like a greased up school bus on acid, when everything is so weirdly meshed that you'll start doubting where you can and cannot go, and when a choice-based game really should give you that feeling of freedom, and yet Life is Strange doesn't, it just isn't worth it. To be honest, the majority of people watching just for entertainment have likely already left because I don't like the tail ends of my scripts to be funny, so I can really hammer home my main points. So to the few people remaining that are either way too dedicated to my channel or actually interested in getting the game, I have one thing to tell you. It's a fucking joke!